Just give me a minute here. Put these away. I'll be right with you. Alright. Do do. Do do do. Hello. How have you all been? I've been doing alright. I've been a little busy working with this new program, working with my new camera, getting everything kind of rearranged here. As you can see, I've got a glorious wall of books. Now, many of my books that I've been reading, I may be covering somewhat soon. I may wait. I haven't decided yet. I've got quite a few books that I want to read. I've got Randall Munroe, the author of XKCD, his book What If. I really kind of want to read that. I've got a few I have read. Fight Club. I've read that. I might be talking about that fairly soon. I've got lots of books. But we're back. You Should Be Reading is back. We are here. So, I could ramble on for quite a bit. I'm going to try not to. But we'll get right into things here in just a minute. The announcement I made for the update just a couple weeks ago about new content, that's still coming. Not exactly quite on the ball there yet, but it will be. I do work for a living, so it's only when I get the free time. But until then, we're going to start right off. I've got a brand new intro for you, brand new music even with it, so enjoy that, roll the intro, and I'll see you in just a second. And welcome to Book 2, Chapter 1 of You Should Be Reading. Today we're going to be talking about Anna Dwyer and her novel Grimspace. It is Book 1 of 6, I believe, in the series. I've got a couple of them. I've got Wanderlust, the second book, and Killbox, the fourth book. I'm missing Double Blind, the third book, and the fifth and sixth book. It is a sci-fi series. I'm a big sci-fi fan. And this book, it caught my eye because of the wonderful cover art. You've got this very, very attractive lady with some scars, it looks like, along her arms. She's got some weird looking electrical stun stick there. And it says, her next jump may be her last. That caught my eye. So I'm like, well, let's see what it's about. So I picked it up. By all accounts, Samantha Jax should have burned out years ago. As the carrier of the rare gene, Jax has the ability to jump ships through Grimspace, a talent that cuts into her life expectancy but makes her a highly prized navigator for the Corp. But then the ship she's navigating crash lands. She's accused of killing everyone on board. It's hard for Jax to defend herself. She has no memory of the crash. She's imprisoned, subjected to ruthless interrogation. She is on the verge of madness. And that is when a mysterious man breaks into her cell, offering her freedom for a price. She has to hook up with a band of rogue fighters, break the Corp monopoly on interstellar travel, and establish a new breed of jumpers. Now, the interesting thing is, most of that happens before the book even begins. That's all backstory. When the book starts, she's on a space station being put through dream therapy to try and cope with the crash. But it's a very cruel form of therapy because it seems to be making her relive the crash over and over, and she suspects things aren't quite what they seem. That's when this mysterious man comes in and offers her freedom, and she takes it and runs. And things go from there. Now, I like me some sci-fi. I liked this book because of a number of reasons. mostly the wonderful characterization of all of the characters, even the minor ones. They're all very much fully fleshed out characters. There is one fellow who's a bit of a Weasley guy. He doesn't last very long, but what you see of him, you get the impression that the author, Miss Aguirre, knows everything about this man, has fully fleshed out his character, even though you don't really see a lot of him. It shows through in the writing. Samantha Jax, the main character, the book is told in a first person perspective. It's all from Samantha Jack's perception. And she's very hard on herself for a number of reasons. I won't get too into that. I don't want to spoil anything too terribly much about the book because it's a really good book. It's one I highly recommend. Now, one of the most interesting things about this book and this series is that there's a lot of sci-fi series, a lot of books in general that you can be reading, and it's following along a nice straight path. And you're pretty sure you know where the plot's going. You can think to yourself in your mind, yeah, I see what's coming. I know what's coming down the road. And then when it gets there, you're like, yeah, I saw it coming. I'm awesome. This book is one of those few out there that float the expectations of the reader in very subtle ways. There are some people that might disagree with what I have to say about this, but that's for them. That's their opinion. This is mine. This book, you get it where the plot's moving along. And when I was reading it, I was thinking, yeah, I can kind of see where this is going. I know what's going to happen here. And then, nope, not even entirely. Something else. And it does this throughout the book. There's no point where you're allowed to really get comfortable in knowing what's going to come next before she's jerking the rug out from under you and throwing something else at you entirely. It's really very good. I quite enjoyed it. Now, what... The Grimspace. Let's talk about the Grimspace for just a little bit. Grimspace of the title it's kind of like a hyperspace, a section of the universe of reality that is below or above that the carriers of the gene that can jump ships, they basically can move a ship through it. Size doesn't so much matter. It doesn't matter how big the ship is, but they can move through it from point to point. There's beacons stretched along this space, Grimspace, that they can find and navigate and tap into. And she's one of the rare few. Now, here's one of the most interesting things. Anna Guire is one of the writers, like Jennifer Stepp of the Elemental Assassin series that I talked about back in book 1 of You Should Be Reading, that deals with sexuality of the characters in a very human, a very realistic way that I quite enjoy. There's a little bit of an actual sex scene in this. It's all very vague, very much in keeping with the same as with Jennifer Stepp in her books. But Samantha Jax, the main heroine, she finds herself attracted to the man who comes and rescues her from the space station. And over the course of the novel, she's thinking thoughts about him. Thoughts that probably she shouldn't be thinking in the situation she's thinking. But she does, because she's human, and that comes across very well. The humanity of Samantha Jax and the other characters comes across quite well. There's even aliens in this particular one. If you're wondering, are there aliens in my sci-fi? There are aliens in your sci-fi, especially this one. There's a chitinous bug-like creature. There's a race of creatures they call the Morgut, M-O-R-G-U-T, and it's basically, they don't call them that through their faces. It's not their real name, but they call them that because they're more gut than anything. They're ravenous, devouring beasts. There's another race that are kind of, I hesitate to use the word elfin, but they seem to be, from the description, very, very fair looking, very, very pretty, almost ethereal and otherworldly in a way. And I'm not going to spoil that one for you. Finding out about that particular race and everything that happens there it was a bit of a shock to me. And I like to consider myself a little bit jaded, a little bit cynical when it comes to reading because I read quite a few books in my day. But that really it caught me off guard with how that happened. So you should be reading Anna Guire, Grimspace, and I'm going to leave you with a little reading. Chapter 1. Are you afraid of falling, baby? No, I'm afraid of landing. He's laughing and I'm smiling. Stupid idiot smile. Don't you know what comes next? Wake. Wake now. I don't want to see this, not again. It's not helping me deal. This thing is broken. Oh no. No. I sit up, shuddering, shoving the dark mop of my hair out of my face, and my fingers come away wet with sweat. With trembling hands, I yank the patch away from my skull. It hurts, but then what doesn't? What the unit psych calls dream therapy, I call torture. Seems too cruel to do this to someone on purpose, and I know they're going to find a way to blame me for the tech malfunction. They always do. It's not my fault they were using gear that should have been decombed after the Axis Wars. That's what I want to believe. But it's getting harder. There comes a point when you want to accept culpability simply because you're the only common denominator. So yeah, maybe it's my fault. I push to my feet, off the sleep mat, restless, haunted, although they proved a long time ago it's all just electromagnetic energy, nothing spiritual, nothing left of the soul, nothing left of him. My AI asks, "Lights on, Samantha Jax?" Such a polite unit spy. The fragging thing reports everything I do, every time I roll over, probably every time I take a piss. Yeah, I tell it. And the soft yellow glow, simulated sunrise on the most hospitable of the tier worlds, fills my cell. Oh, they wouldn't call it a cell. These are my quarters, provided gratis, while my unit assesses the damage to my psyche, decides whether I'm whole enough to run. But I'm incarcerated, even if I'm being watched by an AI instead of a hulking brute. There are prisons without bars and worlds without sunlight. I didn't know about either one until I joined the Corp. I pace 10 by 10, and when I reach the door, the AI inquires, "Shall I summon an escort for you, Samantha Jax?" No. Wheeling away, I head back to the sleep mat and sit down, legs furled. To the AI, I'm sure it looks as though I'm meditating. In fact, I'm envisioning ways to execute something that is not technically alive. Perhaps the introduction of a virus into its system. I'll have to think about it some more. An escort. Clearly I can't be trusted. If I were allowed to roam the station, I'd jump the first freighter I found bound for the outskirts. Desert. Frag my contract. And they can't let that happen. Not until they determine whether the accident was, in fact, my fault. And they won't let me go until they know whether my mind is fried and I can't run anymore. The first thing carries a prison sentence. I'll be shipped off to Whitefish before I hardly know the judgment's been handed down. It'll be some smug bastard who's never been off New Terra, hearing my case via uplink. I don't know if they've gotten to that point yet. Don't know if barristers are involved. I should be consulted for my defense if they make me stand civ trial, but since I am Corp, if it comes to that, they'll probably handle it internally, and in which case I'll end up spaced. Yeah, I've got the J gene, and it's rare. But if it seems like it's my fault that god-awful mess on Matins 4, they're going to make sure not a whisper of it gets out. Kai, he's already dead, so he isn't talking. This leaves me marching on an airlock to keep shit nice and quiet, keep the Corp squeaky clean. Funny, the shiny adverts that get us a sign on the dotted line never show what bastards the CIOs are. Thinking like that makes me sweat. Feel it running down the divots in my spine to pool in the small of my back, clammy beneath the air fresheners blowing down on me. Maybe it was my fault, but I don't want to die, even if I deserve to. And I could answer the second question right now. Not that anybody's asked me. I can jack in. I can jump. I just don't want to anymore. I'm scared. And if that doesn't make you want to read this book, I don't know what will. So I'll leave you with that, dear viewers, dear readers. This week you should be reading Anna Guire, Grimspace. See you next week.